Morning, grade nines. Thanks for all the well wishes. I'm well on the mend. I should be back sometime next week. Quite looking forward to that. I'm quite bored now. Okay, so this Jamboard is just to go through the model answers to task 8 so you can see where you went wrong. Please just take a second to listen to it and just see if you can learn from your mistakes. Okay, so the first question was, why was District 6, let me just change that, why was District 6 destroyed in 1901? I've included the Wikipedia article. Some of you didn't use the Wikipedia article, which is possibly why you struggled a bit. But it clearly says here, in 1901, a large slum areas of District 6 were burnt and razed to the ground after an outbreak of bubonic plague. So that was the first one there, bubonic plague. Yeah. We do now have a cure for bubonic plague, or the Black Death as it was also known, but not at that stage. So that's the first answer. There was an outbreak of bubonic plague. Okay. After World War II, District 6 was relatively cosmopolitan. Explain what this means. I'm sure you all looked up cosmopolitan. Cosmopolitan means it included people from different countries and backgrounds that were not very similar. Different races, different religions. It's not only race though. Cosmopolitan isn't only race. So it's different races, different religions, different cultural groups, etc. Okay. Then this one threw a lot of people. Which act of parliament and in what year meant that District 6 needed to be destroyed? Okay, so the act of parliament and what year was that act enacted? So it was the Group Areas Act, and it was in 1950. What threw a lot of you, and I think it's something that I'll show you later in one of the commentary. It said that in 1966 District 6 was destroyed because of the Group Areas Act, but it didn't say the Group Areas Act started in 1966. It just means that they decided in 1966 to use the legislation of the Group Areas Act to remove District 6. But I asked for the Act of Parliament and the year of that Act, which was 1950, even though it took them 16 years to clear District 6, and they did that in 1966. The actual Act was 1950. Okay, which of the four official reasons why District 6 was set aside for forced removals do you think was the most accurate? And you have to motivate your answer. If you didn't motivate your answer, you didn't get the mark. All right, so government officials gave four primary reasons, okay? In accordance with apartheid philosophy, interracial interaction bred conflict, necessitating the separation of the races. So that would be the core reason, if you like. They deemed District 6 a slum. In other words, it was in very poor nick. It was fit only for clearance, not rehabilitation. That's more an excuse than a reality. Many of the black townships would have been classified as slums as well. They also portrayed the area as crime-ridden and dangerous, which to a degree was true. And they claimed that District 6 was a vice den full of immoral activities such as gambling, drinking, and prostitution. Despite the fact that the government at the time was very, very racial, they believed in strong Christian values. So pornography was banned, drinking was strictly regulated, gambling was completely illegal. There was no gambling allowed in South Africa at all. Okay, now here's the fifth reason. These were the official reasons. Most residents believed that the government sought the land because of proximity to the city centre, Table Mountain, and the harbour. This is the one, unfortunately, that you couldn't choose. Which of the four official reasons? That was probably the real reason, but it's not one of the four official reasons, so you can't choose that. If I must be honest, the one that I would have chosen, they deemed. I wouldn't have chosen the fact that it was a slum. Many areas were slums, many black and coloured areas. It was perhaps crime-ridden and dangerous, but no more so than many of the coloured and black areas. And sure, there were vices in it, but there were vices in many areas. The one that is the most important, interracial interaction bred conflict. So they did it in terms of apartheid laws, where they believed coloured, black, and white people couldn't live harmoniously together. The fact that they were actually living harmoniously together suggests that apartheid was not true, or the philosophy was not true. But allowing people to live reasonably successfully together went against what they stood for. Why was it so strange that District 6 was declared a white area? Only 1% of the population of District 6 was white. It was about 94% coloured, according to the Wikipedia article, and that was why it was so strange. It would have made a lot more sense to make it a coloured area. But why do you think District 6 was declared a white area? Now, this is your opinion. And the article does make reference to it. It was near the city centre. It was considered prime land. It was any land near to the city centre is considered prime land because of cheap transport costs, etc. But most importantly, all the surrounding areas were white, and so it was seen as what was known as a black spot. A black spot would be a black or coloured or Indian area in a predominantly white area, and they wanted to avoid that at all costs. So that would be the real reason why it was cleared. Something that was mentioned down here. Okay. All right. Look at Google Earth. When we get back, we will do that. Large portions of District 6 remain a wasteland despite its prime location. It's near the harbour, it's near the city centre, etc. Research and discuss why this is so. So the original suburb was 150 hectares. Only 40, which is about 28% of it, has been set as around for restitution, resettling of original inhabitants. District 6 was cleared in the 60s and 70s. Probably the biggest reason, it's very difficult to find the original inhabitants, many of whom were dead. The average age of the people receiving land, even when they started the process in the early 2000s, was about 85, 86. So many of the people had subsequently died. If you also mention the Hands of District 6 committee here, which we'll come on to in question 10, I accepted that as a reason as well, but I'll come back to that. Right, question number 8. What was the District 6 renamed as it became a white area? It was called Zonneblum, and unfortunately spelling does count. And then the government bulldozed District 6 except the places of worship. Why do you think places of worship were spared? The government at the time were extremely religious. They were unashamedly Christian. They were very intolerant of any other religions, such as the Muslim faith. And therefore they had a huge problem bulldozing a church. They thought that it was sacred ground. So they were quite happy to throw people out and ruin their lives, but not take out the churches. Quite ironic. What was the aim of the Hands of District 6 committee? Now, this committee was created way back in the 1960s and 1970s. So after the forced removals, 1966, they wanted to stop any form of development or investment. This is still in the apartheid years, so that the land could one day be returned to the original inhabitants. Did that put the government off? Maybe to a degree it did, because it made redevelopment difficult. But the government, the apartheid government, also took a lot of time in deciding what they wanted to do with this land and how they wanted to redevelop it as a white area. Right, why do you think, again, this is now asking your opinion, the District 6 Museum has handwritten notes of former inhabitants? It's to make it personal. I'm afraid, guys, yes, the District 6 Museum has been around for a little while, but not that long. We did have typing back in those days. Sure, we didn't necessarily have the strength of the computers that we do now, but that's not the reason. Handwritten notes makes it really personal and real. I did accept other answers, but not that the technology wasn't available. Right, and then number 12, which was for 3 marks, please, boys and girls. Yeah. Too many of you wrote a sentence and expected 3 marks. So the question was, how have artists and performers. A lot of you got the artist part, and performers kept the spirit and vibe of District 6 alive. So we have Alex Laguma wrote a short novel. There have been other things written about District 6. We have painters. The website mentions Kenneth Baker and Gregor Bulzaya have done paintings. And then the performance part, David Kramer and Talib Peterson created a famous musical which is still being shown today. It's called District 6. I've seen it. It's really, really worth it. It's been on the circuit for decades now, but if you ever get the chance to see it, it would be quite a good idea if you did so. Then just this last one, just one or two things that I wanted to touch on. Just have a quick look. All right, this was just showing you, I didn't have space to put it on the slide. It's showing you that 94% of the population were coloreds, 4% were Indian, and only 1% of the resident population were whites. And despite that, they made it a white area. And then this is also just, if you want to take some time to look through it, the Hands Off District 6 committee, why they mobilized after forced removals and what they did. So that answer to that question you'll find over there. Please give a shout if there's anything that you don't understand, and I'll try to help you out. Have a good day.